And we humbly thank all of you for allowing us this opportunity. We promise to be open, honest, clear, and direct. We also promise to empower, to be inclusive, and to listen. And as I turn it over to John, he will be discussing our purpose and functions and our core values and norms. John?
Thank you, Kim.
You're welcome.
So I'm just going to give a second here for Laura to put a thar.
There we go. Can y'all see that?
Yes, and then we'll, perfect. All right, well, thank you again, Kim. So welcome everybody, and thank you for joining us this evening. Just to share in addition to our reoccurring operational items, our agenda this evening is going to include a listening session focused on the elementary and secondary emergency relief funding that we have received, known as ESSER 3. But I would like to begin this evening by grounding our work in the function and purpose of the Lcap PAC, which is to, so we'll go to the next slide here, Laura, please. So you can see here that the function and purpose of the Lcap PAC here is to serve in an advisory capacity on matters pertaining to the development, monitoring, and revision of the Lcap, with a specific focus on improving outcomes and meeting the needs of our English learner, foster youth, homeless, and socioeconomically disadvantaged students. I would also like to share our Lcap PAC core values and norms, which is our commitment to one another in creating a safe and productive space for us to work in. And so I would just like to give you all a minute to review our Lcap PAC norms and values and just pick one that resonates with you, that you would like to focus on this evening. And then also, if there is one norm that you feel is missing that you would like to see added, we would just ask that you send Kim and Steve an email, or you can put it in the chat, and then we'll take that into consideration. So I'll give you all a minute, and feel free to review the core values and norms and find one that just speaks to you and resonates with you. And so what I'm going to do now, thank you so much for doing that. I'm just going to turn it now over to Steve, who's going to facilitate our community building activity. So Steve, I turn it over to you, sir.
All right, thank you, John. Welcome everyone again. My name's Steve Rubens, and I'm co-chair. Proud to be serving this year as co-chair. And I just kind of have a little fun community building activity. It's sort of a tradition here that we're doing that, thanks to Heather, actually. And and feel free to pass if you don't want to participate. But what we'd like you to focus on is how would your closest friend describe you in, say, 1 or 2 words? And again, if you don't feel comfortable, feel free to opt out. So myself, I'd say loyal and genuine. I try to be as genuine as possible, and my friends have told me that they appreciate that about me, and I consider myself very loyal, and that's how you build trust and relationships. So and then I'll send it over to Kim so she can go next, and then I'll probably just go in alphabetical order of PAC members to keep it simple, and then again you can pass if you want to pass. So Kim, you want to share?
Sure. So my best friends, my Fab Five would probably call me friendly, clean, and crazy.
We can learn more about that, those why maybe later. The crazy part's fun. I like that. Again, alphabetical order is Deborah Avalos here. Would you like to share, Deborah?
Yes.
All right.
I think my closest friend would say that I am very tenacious, because I'm kind of stubborn and I go after what I want and I don't stop until it's done. And then maybe like organized and very orderly. I like everything in its place, and I like to organize things.
Very good. Thank you very much for sharing. Karen Brown, are you present tonight? No, maybe. Or we can go to Amber Busby.
Yeah, I'm here. Good evening, everyone. My best friend is actually my And she would say I am type A, actually. She would definitely describe me as someone who's type A, but I think she'd also say I'm pretty amazing and someone who's down to earth. So
Very nice. A for amazing, right? Type A for amazing. Very good. All right. The next would be Elnora Colbert. Are you here tonight? Okay, we can come back maybe. How about Stephanie? Stephanie Colbert, are you here tonight? No. Okay, how about
I think the
Faisal?
next one
Oh,
on the
sorry.
list is, I think the next one is April Green.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yep.
No, it's
Thank
okay.
you. Thank
It's
you for
okay.
fixing. April Green.
I think, well, actually, no, my best friend, she would say that her favorite thing about me is you never have to guess where you stand or what I'm thinking because I have no filter and I just say what's on my mind.
Very good. I like that very much. Okay, Elizabeth Hawkins.
Actually just saw my best friend recently, and she would definitely say that I'm outspoken and I'm focused, or kind of like the planner between the two of us. I like to have, if I have a task, I will sit there and, you know, zone in for a long time and focus on a lot of details. So
Excellent. All right, Chelsea Kelly, please.
Hello, everyone. My friends and coworkers would probably describe me as very passionate. When I get upset about something, I find something to be particularly unjust, I'm like a dog with a bone. I get very, very upset. And then secondly, they would call me very persistent because I don't give up until I've fixed that problem.
Very nice. I love it. All right, next would be Zina Al-Nasiri. No. How about Tom? You want to share it?
Sure. I think I'll go with organized, since that's I've noticed a few of my friends have mentioned that somewhat recently, that I seem really organized on things. So that's mine.
Very nice. I would agree. Neelam Pudyal.
Yeah, good
Thank you.
evening, everyone.
Good to
As
see you.
my friend, everyone told me that I'm friendly and I'm caring also. I care them, so I understand them. So that's the bonding of the feelings to be a friend. Thank you.
Very good. And Beatrice Santos.
Beatrice says that her friends would describe her as positive, never looks at things like a loss, but a lesson to be learned, and that there's no obstacles, just rocks between paths, and that you just have to, you know, find a way around those rocks or climb over them.
Very good. That's awesome. And Jacqueline Shields. Any Jacqueline tonight? Okay. Did I miss anyone, Laura, that's here tonight?
Yep, you got them all.
All right.
Good job.
Okay. Well, since I went through all the names, I guess roll call will be a little easier. So Kim can handle the roll call.
Sure. So thanks everyone for sharing. It was really nice to get a little window into a little bit of your character and who you are. At this time, Laura will conduct the attendance and roll call. So please answer by present, here, or any other way you believe reflects your character to let Laura know that you're present. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. And at this point, I just want to announce we do have quorum. We have 10 members in attendance, so that's great. So if you could just respond yes when I call your name, that would be great. Deborah Avalos?
Yes.
Okay. Kim Brown?
Here.
Amber?
yes.
April? Present. Elizabeth,
Present.
Chelsea,
Present.
Tom,
Here.
Neelam,
Yes.
Steve,
Sorry, yes, here.
and Beatrice. Yes,
Present,
thank you. Thank you, Isis.
of course.
Okay.
At
and-
this,
go
at
ahead.
this time, we will approve the minutes from our last meeting from August 19th. If anyone wants to make a motion to approve our minutes.
I'll
This
motion
is-
to approve them.
And I'll second.
Okay, that's
And is
Deborah.
there any,
Deborah, sorry. Deborah, I motion to approve them.
And Chelsea seconds.
Perfect.
is there any discussion?
Yes, let's see, I just want to bring up a point that, see, on this second page, it mentions Heather Gonzalez shared her perspective of her role as Lcap co-chair. And I think it would be a good idea to use the terminology that we have in our bylaws, that we have a chair and a assistant chair. So I would like, I'd like to clarify that and just use the terminology that we have in our official bylaws.
Thank you, Tom. Does anyone have any objection to that or any other further discussion? Then would we like to take a vote on approving the minutes with the corrections?
Okay, so I'll go ahead and run down the list. If you approve, just say yes. If you don't approve, say no. If you want to abstain, just respond with abstain. So Deborah. Do you approve the minutes?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Kim,
Yes.
Amber,
Yes.
April,
Yes.
Elizabeth,
Yes.
Chelsea,
Yes.
thank you. Tom,
Oh, yeah, yes.
Neelam,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
and Beatrice.
Beatrice abstains as she was not present for the
Perfect.
previous meeting.
Okay, thank you. And at this time, I'd like to turn it over to John to go ahead and introduce Paula and Mr. Kern.
Yep. Thank you, Laura. Yes, I was going to turn it over now to Board President Viasquez and then Superintendent Kern to provide us with an update.
Thank you. Hi, Paula Viasquez, Board President and Lcap Liaison. First and foremost, I always want to start with an expression of gratitude to you all for spending both your evening, but the time this year as well, dedicated to our Lcap work. And as the board liaison, I look forward to working with you in that capacity. I'll provide a little bit of a board update. I'll give just a quick summary of kind of our latest board meeting on Tuesday, where we received a pretty comprehensive review of our summer school programming and just how robust it was across the board. The reports were really, it was just really helpful to see the emphasis on both students and our practitioners focusing on things that they love to learn about and reestablishing those connections with education and with learning, particularly after the last 18 months and counting that we have all trudged our way through. So that was a really, wonderful summary of the summer activities. And then of course, we also kind of received the latest update on the budget and some of the kind of more mundane things that we do as a board. And so that was kind of, those were, I think, the highlights. We had student board reports in person, which I know is always a highlight of the board meetings for us. And then of course, outside of the board meeting, staff and the team continue to work feverishly to keep up with changing guidelines related to COVID and appropriate public health and safety protocols. We did also receive an update on the continued efforts around testing, which is a key component to safely keeping our doors open. And that's kind of the latest. I will also say we have been working pretty earnestly on kind of supporting both our Afghan community here, and then you might have seen some media coverage over the last couple of weeks around some of our students who, along with their families, are still abroad. And so that's been a line of effort as well that continues to move forward. But we did take the opportunity as well to just clarify there was some early coverage that kind of implied or lacked context and suggested that perhaps the students were there on a field trip and that's how they got stuck there, which is not the case. And nevertheless, we continue to support their families as much as possible. I don't think I saw Dr. McKibben on the line, but I'm going to do a quick pause to see if he has anything to add. Seeing none, and I don't see him in the participants list. I'm checking really quickly. I will turn it over to Superintendent Kern.
Thanks, Paul. I appreciate that. And like Paul, I just want to say thanks to everybody for giving of your time. There's so many things that people can get involved in and are involved in. So we just really appreciate your support as community members and parents in our district. Just some of the challenges we continue to face this year are challenges that are pretty much similar across the entire state when we think about shortages related to staffing. I have calls almost every other week with the superintendents in the county and speak to others in other counties, and the work shortage that we're seeing, you're seeing it in businesses with restaurants closing on certain days or other things. We're feeling it too. And so we continue to try and find creative ways around those. We increased our sub rate at the board meeting on Tuesday night. I was just looking at the numbers for tomorrow. We have over 50 unfilled sub spots. So if you know people, community members who would be willing to sub, what we have well over 200 folks in our sub pool. What we're finding out right now is there's a lot of hesitancy for people to actually come in and sub, because every day it's a new environment. It's a different group of kids. And I think there's a fear, and a lot of our subs historically have been retired folks as well. So that's creating a challenge for us there. So we're still working on filling as many positions as we can. I would say the level of just work and stress this year goes far beyond any year I have ever seen, even at the school site level with our administrators. I've got the dashboard up right now. A little over a couple of weeks ago, we had over 240 positive student cases. We're down to 122 right now. That was below 100. Just the amount of work that goes into when we have positive cases, doing the contact tracing, communicating with those families, the pieces that go into that to keep students is a monumental amount of work. And again, that's something when I talk with other superintendents, that's just a real pressure in the system. So we're trying to do everything we can to alleviate some of that pressure, but that is a really, really heavy lift. When you think about a small or an elementary school with one administrator, if you have one or two cases and you're having to do contact tracing, that's all you're going to do for a day or a couple of days. Paula alluded to the expanded testing that we're looking at doing. The more sites we can get testing to, the better. In order to try and not have to negotiate all the pieces of that, we've actually worked with our site leaders and just asked for volunteers. So we will be expanding testing sites soon, ultimately, so that by the time we have to have implemented a mandatory vaccine for all employees or tests weekly, if you don't, that's in place at each of our school sites. So that's just some of the updates that we're working on. And again, as Paul alluded to, a lot of work going on behind the scenes to try and support our students from Afghanistan. So we're putting a lot of time and energy to support those students. So John, I'll turn it back over to you.
Right. Thank you, Superintendent Kern, and thank you, President Viasquez. So we're going to move on to the next agenda item, which is our staff report. And we do not have a staff report this evening, so I'm actually going to turn it over to Laura for general visitor comments at this time.
Thank you. At this point in time, if you're a visitor to our meeting this evening, now is an opportunity to ask any questions or make a general comment to any on anything that is not an agendized item. Please limit your comments or questions to 2 minutes. The law does not allow us to address your comments or your questions, but oftentimes we will distribute your question or comment for follow-up. So at this point in time, I'd like to open it up to any visitors. If you have any general comment, now is your time.
Hi, I know Beatrice isn't a visitor, but can I say what her comments are?
You know, is it, yeah, I think that's okay. Is it related to any of our agenda items tonight, Isis?
I don't believe so. I think you had let's see, hold on, sorry. I'll have to look back at your agenda. Let's see, roll call. Let's see, listening session, business items. No.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So her comment is number one, if you had any social, emotional support for things that are going on at home, any type, like our district, what we're doing, obviously COVID has caused some emotional issues. So she wanted to know if you guys have information. And secondly, which is what we're going through right now, is laptop for parents, or because a lot of parents do not have access to a Chromebook or their own computers at home, where right now I have to use my own personal phone to contact her, which is not covered by the district at all. So yeah, she wants to know those two are her questions. Those are the 2 questions she has.
Okay, so Isis, I would say we're going to do that listening session in just a few minutes, and I think her comment on the Chromebook would be really appropriate for that section, since we'll be focusing on facilities, upgrades, things like that, safe and in-person learning. So that would be perfect. Regarding the mental health services, it's gosh, John, do you have a response to that?
I think we can get back to her on that response at a later time. I think at this point now, if we, I think you said it right, a lot of the comments that were just made will work perfectly with our listening session coming up shortly.
Okay.
So if we just want to, in the event that we have some visitors here, this would be the time for them to be able to share their comments, and then the PAC will have an opportunity to engage in discussion for the listening session.
Very well.
Thank you.
Of course. Entonces, fíjate.
Okay. So at this point in time, I'm going to turn it back over to John, and that brings us to our next agenda item, which is our ESSER 3 listening session.
Thank you, Laura. So as Laura just mentioned, our next agenda item here is going to focus on the elementary and secondary school, or elementary and secondary emergency relief funding that we have received, known as ESSER 3. This evening, I'm going to begin by sharing some information about what ESSER 3 is, the funding that we have, the community engagement that we have done thus far as a district, and then finally the questions that will guide our listening session this evening. So as I mentioned, ESSER 3 stands for the Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Funds. These are COVID-19 federal funding for districts under the American Rescue Plan Act to address the impact of COVID-19. And so within this plan, there are 2 requirements, which are community engagement as well as addressing the impact of COVID-19, specifically the impact of lost instructional time, for example, students' academic, social, emotional, and mental health needs, but also continuous and safe in-person learning around reducing or preventing the spread of the COVID-19 virus, which will be the focus for our conversation this evening. With regard to funding, the ESSER III total funds that we had were about $115 million, but $98 million of that has already been allocated towards our expanded learning and opportunity grant, which, as you can see here, was focused on that first requirement around lost instructional time. And so this plan and that $98 million, that was approved by the board in May. So what's remaining of that $115 million is about $17 million, but there's also some additional one-time funds of $13 million. So essentially we have approximately $30 million left to allocate towards that second requirement, which is around the continuous and safe in-person learning, which is to reduce or prevent the spread of COVID-19. So in August, we conducted a thought exchange that included, we had 290 participants that included students, staff, parents and guardians, family members, and community members. And the thought exchange really focused on the changes or improvements related to our school buildings and how we provide services such as meals, cleaning, safety, and technology to meet student needs in an in-person independent study or homeschool setting. And so these were some of the themes that emerged from that thought exchange. And these themes are actually ranked in order of importance by the folks that conducted the thought exchange. So you can see here we have themes, and I'll mention them in order of importance. From the thought exchange, we had air quality, outdoor spaces, smaller classes, excuse me, cleaning and hygiene, staffing and substitutes, COVID testing, facilities upgrades, planning and communication, meal logistics, technology, learning models, masks, setup and spacing, and vaccines. So then, which brings us to this evening's listening session. And so what we are interested in learning about is what theme areas from the thought exchange resonate with you and why? What might be missing that we should be considered to help improve or maintain the safe learning environments? And then what we'll do is the last part of our conversation is we'll look at questions 1 and 2, the ideas that we generated, and identify the top 5 priority areas from those two themes. And then so then I guess with that, I will ask Laura to share the Google Doc where we're going to capture our thinking this evening. Given that we have the time that we have this evening, we're going to spend about 10 minutes or so per question, so that and Laura and I will keep track of time for that. And then finally, just as a reminder, this part of the discussion will be for Lcap PAC members only, but visitors will have an opportunity to make comments regarding this agenda item at the end of this item. So Laura, if we want to transition to the Google Doc, we can get into the discussion.
Yeah, so sorry, my screen share is acting up right now. John, can you pull it up for some reason?
Yep,
I'm not able to pull that document up.
Okay.
It's not letting me. Oh, wait, never mind.
Okay.
I got it.
Perfect. So Laura, just to orient everyone here to the document there, you can see the questions. If you scroll down just a little bit, Laura, a little farther up. Perfect. You'll see the themes that we had ranked by importance. So you can see those in front of you there where it says air quality, outdoor spaces. So those are the themes that we are referring to. And so we'll just open it up for a discussion. So given those themes that are listed above there, what theme areas from the thought exchange resonate with you and why? And we'll capture your thinking here.
I definitely think air quality is important, maybe in light of COVID, but also in the smoke. Now that we're going to have fire seasons, you know, the smoke seasons every year, most likely. Ensuring that maybe there are air purifiers in every classroom, or improving the air quality of the, you know, the AC or heating system. I'm not sure how that works exactly, but I feel that's a big issue to think about.
Thank you, Deborah. And then I see, Steve, you had your hand up, and then Amber. So start with Steve and then go to Amber.
Yeah, I would totally agree. One thing I've seen is UV lamps that's tied into the ducting. So that kills all bacteria and stuff in the classrooms. So UV, I guess it's inline, like a UV inline light that kills germs. Something to add.
Thank you, Steve. So we'll go Amber, and then I see Chelsea's hand up as well. So Amber.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I feel like my computer's okay, good. It's just a little far away from me. I agree with air quality. I definitely think that it's a concern. However, I want to be clear that what I would prioritize over air quality are outdoor spaces for the children. And I think that for me, I tend to kind of associate that with social and emotional support. I'm thinking about, you know, the kids are kids, and they're playing together on the playground all day. They're running around, they're touching each other, they're all over the same slide, they're on the swings. And I was at the board meeting. I tuned in on Tuesday, and what I heard from our high school students is that masks aren't really being enforced, and a lot of students were concerned about that, and they're a little bit upset. At least the students from El Camino that I was hearing from are upset about things like homecoming being canceled for another year, when the reality is that they're in spaces like cafeterias, and even outdoors they're not socially distanced, but they're not wearing masks, and then we're taking away their things like dances and these fun kind of recreational things, but games are still happening, right? And so I think about, I think one of the reasons for the kids, you know, being kids, that's gonna happen, but they're like kind of playing and don't really know like social etiquette, or you know, they don't have boundaries yet, so they're touching and like snot, and you know, like I'm imagining all sorts of things. And so I think what would be great is if the kids had more organized or like structured activities to do at recess, or if there were different, I don't know about zones. I know that zones work in some ways, but then there's always the kid who doesn't get to be on the structure, and that's a problem. And I don't know, but I think that like some sort of, you know, Sammy Circuit is something that comes to mind. I know my son like that. I know that that's kind of in the elementary schools. And I'm taking up a lot of space. I apologize, but also I have a lot of thoughts on this. So I'm actually going to go ahead and shut up and let some other people talk. I see a lot of hands raised, but I will slide back in later.
Thank you, Amber. That was great. Thank you. Chelsea, you were next, and then after Chelsea, we have April, and then Elizabeth.
Great. So first of all, I think you did a great job, Amber, and you do not need to apologize for taking up space. But my comments, the things that resonate with me are two things, which I think actually go together. One is COVID testing. It sounds like there is a concerted effort to increase COVID testing at each school site. I know Sac City already has implemented this. Just want to point out there are grant funds available for that in case that's an issue. And then vaccine availability, and wondered if, you know, as the 5 to 12-year-olds are going to be eligible for vaccination, whether or not there'll be active vaccine sites for those kiddos when that date finally comes.
Thank you, Chelsea. I believe next we have April.
My space bar isn't working. So with the air quality in regards to that, with especially when it's like really hot outside or it's smoky due to fires, things of that nature, it'd be nice if there was opportunity for students to do indoor stuff, of course, safely. But my concern is also staff to have some sort of relief, because a lot of times that's their only chance to go make copies, use the restroom, take care of their own needs.
Mhm.
So I think that, yes, we need to be aware of like the air quality and the harms it can cause to having students outside, but also how are we going to care for our staff to make sure that they're able to continue the education and care of our students. Does that make sense?
It does. Thank you. Laura, did you capture that? I see you're writing feverishly, so I think the answer is yes. Thank you, April. How about we'll go with Elizabeth, and then we'll circle back to Amber here.
Thanks. I would say the COVID testing again, I'll just echo that. I had my first experience with that last month when we got a notification in my daughter's classroom. There had been an exposure, and I guess part of that is clear communication. I was trying to kind of decipher, okay, she needs to get a test within this many days. And I naively said, oh, okay, so when will they be testing the kids in the class who all got exposed? I thought that would be going on at the school. And it was a lot more difficult than I thought. It was my first time having to go through this, trying to get my daughter tested. And I had my 2 other kids with me, and we'd drive somewhere and then have to drive back an hour later. And it kind of went on all night. And I wanted to meet the guidelines and be safe, but it really was not a smooth process. And my understanding after talking with the school office was the district had maybe 1 day that week where they were going to test, but then other parents told me, oh, it's the madhouse. So it would be great if that was a little bit easier to get access to, because, we're going to anticipate that those situations are going to come up.
Great. Thank you, Elizabeth. And actually, before, Amber, before I go to you, I saw that Karen Brown had Karen, I saw you had your hand up, kind of go up and down and stuff. So I just wanted to recognize you. Would you like to say a few words?
Yeah, definitely. I'm new here and a little bit late. I had to get back from cheer practice. I love all the ideas here that resonate for me. Sorry, my son's playing Fortnite. We're asking for, I like the meals, meal logistics. I really think that's important. My daughter comes home every day from school from El Camino, not eating lunch, even though she can get it for free. So that's a concern. And as well as just logistics in the hallways. I hear her saying, Mom, we're neck to neck, shoulder to shoulder. And I know they only have a certain amount of time to get from one class to the other. So just maybe even, if we could do something like that, to look into that as well.
Great. Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. And then Amber, I saw you put a comment in the chat. Did you want to add to that, or is that what you would like us to include in the themes there? I'll just circle to you there.
Yeah, I really do have a lot of thoughts. And so I have another point that I jotted down here on paper. So I'm going to let somebody else jump in and I'll come back to me.
Perfect. All right. Thank you. And then Tom, I also noticed you made a comment in the chat as well, so we could capture that. But is there something you wanted to add?
Yeah, well, I wanted to basically ask, and looks like Frank is here, so Frank might be able to actually answer this question. Since air quality was listed as the highest concern, what metrics does the district use on air quality? One, and how is that information being shared with parents and students?
Great. So Tom, that's great. We'll note that question, and then we'll definitely be able to circle back with you with a response on that.
Okay. When you say circle back to me, will you circle back to the entire PAC with that information?
Correct, like our normal protocol. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. And then let's see here. Isis, I know that did you want to share some information?
Yes. So Beatrice says that she does agree with the social distancing. where she sees that students are not social distancing. And in regards to the technology, she once again, the note that we would circle around later is the ability for parents to have laptops if they're going to attend parent teacher conferences, if they're going to attend the PAC meetings, ELAC, I'm sorry, yeah, ELAC meetings, DLAC. How are they to assist if they do not have the accessibility to these? And also, what are we doing to emotionally support our students, not only the staff, but the students and their mental health? Are there counselors? Are there people at the school where if they're having a rough day or anything, they're able to walk into a room and say, hey, I'm having a tough day. Hey, this is happening at home, or yeah.
Thank you.
Of course.
All right, and so Amber, I'm going to come to you next, because I know you had some additional thoughts you wanted to share, but I think we can actually probably move into the second question as well, if you want to get us started on that on that point, which is what is missing that should be considered to help improve or maintain safe learning environments? So I know the questions are pretty similar, but Amber, why don't we start with you since you've had your hand up, and then we'll take it from there.
Yeah, cool. Thank you, John. You kind of know how my brain works. I think that my next points do kind of fit in there. I think that cleaning and hygiene, so kind of linking the first question to the second question, I think that cleaning and hygiene are also definitely a priority. I want to go back to like what I was saying about having more play structures or like organized things that kids can use. I would want to make sure that they're being sanitized at some point in between use. And I think that goes to like how our rec aides and campus monitors kind of being positioned and trained on campus to support those COVID efforts, right? And so I'd want to make sure that that's happening. I know that, again, kind of going back to the kids are always on my heart. The kids at El Camino that we're talking about, their kind of lunch line, or maybe it was Rio. I can't remember. I remember that kind of angry guy, but sorry. Anyway, the kids were kind of talking about the lunch lines and the lack of social distancing in there. And so I know that lunch has to move fast, right? Like it moves really fast in reality. And there's all these things that we think about and we want to put into place. And in theory, it works. But then in reality, like, are the custodians really having enough time? Are the lunch schedules set up in a way where the custodians have enough time, you know, like to be able to wipe down and sanitize all of that? What's the process on looking at those schedules? You know, I think that something else that comes to mind is with so many staff, my heart really does go out to the staff, because I know it's been a ringer for all of us, right? But the staff especially, they're coming back and nobody goes into teaching for the money, right? And so I want to just lift Avalos, Deborah. I want to lift your point there about, I've seen actually, I want to give the district kudos, because I have seen a lot of the postings. You are giving sign-on bonuses, and I think increasing salaries would be great. Teachers have needed increases for a very long time. They've had it coming for a long time. They're saving the world, right? The future, the kids are our future. So I think that would be something great. I think that communication is something else that stands out, kind of linking again my first to my second point here, that communication is something that could be increased with parents. I know that there's like class tag and dojo and all those things, and we have to keep in mind the families who are new from Afghanistan, the families who aren't who aren't tech savvy and don't know how to like operate all those things and just want quick communication with the teacher. We should be reaching out by phone, you know, and out there trying to build connection at dismissal and in the mornings. Not saying that teachers aren't doing that, but like that's the approach that we want to take, and keeping in mind families and having that kind of communication when we are constantly putting out fires, and supporting our staff with that sort of forward thought. And then my last point, I promise, smaller class sizes stands out to me too. And I think that that is something that's also missing that would help with a safer learning environment. I think that a lot of the kids would think it would suck if they went back to cohorts, but it might be the smart move. And I know everybody has a different stance on COVID, but somehow we do need to have smaller class sizes. And that's not just because of COVID, that's because that's what the education system has needed for years, right? So I've always looked at COVID as like an opportunity for all of America to press reset. And I digress there, actually. Those are all of my thoughts.
All right, thank you, Amber. And then I do see a new hand. Stephanie, would you like to jump in and offer an idea?
Can you guys hear me?
I can.
Okay, sorry, I'm actually picking up my daughter cheer and my son football. Okay, so all the cheer and football kids are out, ready to go home right now. So I just threw it out there and try to get their perspective right now so it can help us out real quick before I left. So they just told me that their soap dispenser isn't working, sanitizer pumps are broken, kids are playing around with paper towels and wasting them and the soap dispensers. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay, and what else? What was it? Soap, sanitizer, paper towels. Oh, I guess they're concerned because not a lot of teachers wear masks, so it's like half masks. Yeah, they don't have stock of paper masks in stock. I've been buying like extra masks to put them in my vehicles or making my kids have 2 or 3 during in their backpack because they do sports right after school, and I told them to rotate. Even if they have a cloth, tell them to take it off and put like a paper one on. Just rotate it because moisture builds up until they get home and wash their cloth. What else was there? The disinfectant wipes. There's none limited. I know I've been in comments of fake quarantine, and what I meant by that is our immune systems are built up, and I know that I keep everybody healthy. I've been around I worked around infectious disease, so I know what to do. So we're still negative always, but the vaccine's not going to work for our conditions right now. So we have to build our immune antibodies up. In the meantime, when I asked about the COVID testing, when I was picking up my child saying they were possibly exposed to student or staff, it just gives a message of a student or staff. But if you have one or more child at the same school, it kind of puts a panic mode on the parent because you're not knowing which child has been exposed. And so if one was exposed, so they were like, okay, well, you don't pick them up right now as long as they get tested that week, twice that week, or get the vax. I'm like, oh Jesus. But then I don't think parents are really understanding the full opening of schools, because if they are just returning back to work and trying to get in that motion of getting caught up on bills, and you get that phone call, your heart starts racing. You're like, oh Jesus. Now you gotta go tell your employer. And then you're thinking that you're keeping your kid home for quarantine, but you gotta realize it's the whole family. Get it? And so even if it's a day or two, it still takes time out, and it's just a lot of people are not being mindful. They throw the guidelines out, but as we are in the month of school starting, people are starting to stock off and be lazy. And I watched and from a distance and got my perspective and just watched and observed before I said anything until tonight. But I wanted to give you the students' outlook of what's occurring factually on campus, so we can nip that in the butt. It's not like, okay, well, maybe this, maybe that. No, I just asked a whole group of cheer and a whole group of football players, what's occurring on school campus right now? And they're like, we want rallies. And they're like, well, we can't. I'm like, well, be creative. Go to CDC guidelines. We're going by the guidelines. We have it posted on our website. Look at that and see what the guidelines are We don't agree with them, but we have to follow them. It's the best way we can. And if you guys want rallies or fun stuff, look at those guidelines and be creative. And then one of them was like, oh yeah, and flip it. I said, there you go. Like rallies. They do a 6 feet social distance rally.
I'm sorry. Hello. Can you take a 2-second pause for me to catch up with translation? Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I don't want to go out there before I'm driving home before I forget. But yeah, they just told
No,
us to me. So
you're okay.
All right, thank you, Stephanie. I appreciate it. And
Yes.
while you're doing that, I just want to notice too, Chelsea, I saw your comment. I thought your hand was still up from the other comment that you had made, and so I wasn't aware you wanted to make an additional comment. But we'll just give a second here for Isis to translate there, and then when you're ready, if you'd like to jump in, we'd love to hear what you have to say.
Okay. Something that's missing from the list above is the mask policy, allowing kids to go unmasked outdoors during recess is certainly, I'm sure, driving a lot of the stress on administrators trying to do the contact tracing, because as you know, if you're not mask to mask, then it triggers home quarantine versus a modified quarantine at school. As an alternative, if we're not going to change the mask policy for outdoors, other districts have implemented lunch seating charts, which again will help with the contact tracing when there is a positive student, and or having recess cohort areas. So that again, if they're unmasked, at least you know you can narrow down the scope of who they could have played with, which would again narrow the number of quarantines that are required. And likewise, the last thing I'll say is, I think parents are shocked to hear that they are not being offered independent study when their student is on quarantine. And I think it would help the safety of all kids if parents knew that their kids would have access to educational activities while they're on quarantine, because otherwise parents are just going to keep sending their kids to school and not notifying of exposure.
Thank you, Chelsea. And I just want to say, April, I see that you wanted to jump in, so go ahead and do that. And Amber, just want to recognize that, yes, Laura is taking notes, but we might be circling back to the comments after the session. But I see that you, yes, we got the point. So April, go ahead.
I just wanted to comment that there was an incident at my daughter's school today that was concerning regarding staff safety and the COVID protocol. The police were actually called out due to a parent being aggressive. And so that's just a little bit concerning, and it kind of circles back to that mental wellness piece that someone mentioned earlier. And then the incident itself revolved around the COVID testing and the inaccessibility of getting COVID testing done, especially like with my own personal daughter. She had to get 3 tests within a week and a half. And my insurance only paid it for once, and they're like, we can't test her again for another month, so you'll have to go to other places. And then the school's testing wasn't going to be for several days, so she's missing school in the meantime. So I just think that just having that awareness, and then maybe trying to develop plans for making the testing more accessible, maybe doing some community outreach for that mental wellness piece, and just having resources for staff, or maybe some additional training on de-escalation, especially with parents and the way that they're handling their stresses right now as well. Because I think a lot of people also did lose jobs during COVID. And so there may be a whole bunch of things going into that are like boiling over into this one thing. So I just think that's something that if there's a plan that we can help be supportive in, we should look at that as an option.
Thank you, April. And then I see there's just 2 hands left. So we'll give Karen and Isis the last word here. So Karen, if did you have your hand up just from before, or do you have something new you'd like to share?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
Yeah, I do. So I love the mental health piece that we are talking about at the board meeting of all the students. That was a constant. So I think that's a huge improvement that we can work on. I'm just kind of back ending on April's comment, as well as I personally had to deal with my son being out of school. And I think the improvement that we could do is better communication with the attendance office on what's going on. I did get automatic emails from the attendance office. I was responding to them, giving them updates on my child, as well as communicating with the teacher through Dojo. Now that worked perfectly. I'm not sure, if that method works perfectly for all other teachers and parents, if they all use that or if they don't, but it worked out for me. The teacher was aware of where my son was, and my only improvement would be front office communication with attendance, and maybe even other options. Packets sent home. If you notice that student missed school and they send an email back, the parents send an email back saying, hey, my student's out due to a cough, due to a symptom, it should be automatic. We shouldn't be waiting 2 and 3 and 4 days to give these kids some kind of schoolwork, and so I've even thought about homeschooling my son with everything all over again. So, maybe if we can have some kind of improvement, I'm going to close with this. We have to remember that COVID taught us how to do distance learning. We can't forget what it taught us. We jumped straight in like everything was normal. And I think now, with my daughter being in high school at El Camino, coming home every day saying she might have been exposed, and I have no kind of notification from the high school. I mean, I barely get an absentee email, but, so just better communication amongst all areas, focus on mental health, and maybe some kind of alternatives if that child is sick.
Thank you, Karen. And then Isis, we're going to give Beatrice the last
Karen
word.
Brown.
Yes, Karen. Yes, Karen Brown. Yes, ma'am. And then Isis, we're going to give Beatrice the last word here if you'd like to share.
Okay. Beatrice was just agreeing that yes, in regards to better communication. Not only that, but translation and communication. And as she had stated before, that has to do with the technology as inaccessible to the parents. And not everyone understands the technology. It's not easy to be accessed, whether you're a parent or a student at this point. Yeah, I think everyone else said what she was concerned about, which is the social distancing. And she did suggest that to have training or kind of have a check-in with teachers, because they have to deal with parents every day who are under pressure, who are stressed and could get aggravated, and a training that could due to COVID, what strategies they could use to calm the parent, to say, hey, this is our policy, the masks, the social distancing, and maybe have some things, basically to have it apparent that the parent needs to know that they have to follow these rules at school.
Thank you. Please say thank you to Beatrice.
Okay, gracias Beatriz por su comentario. Sus comentarios.
And so what we'll do now, there's been a lot of great ideas that have been shared. This was a lot of ideas that were generated. So what we're going to do is we're going to jump to question 3, which is, what are your top 5 priority areas from question 1 and 2? So we're going to look at these. Laura will scroll up here and we'll just take maybe just a moment here of silence just to kind of read through some of the highlights that people have shared. And then I'd like us to be able to see if we can't name 3 to 5 sort of key themes or priorities, I should say, from this list that we can take forward. So I will be silent for a moment and let everybody just read these comments. All right. So again, we had, oh, okay. We have some folks that are still reading through, so we'll continue that. And then if folks just have a reminder, we are looking at all of the ideas that were shared, and we're going to see if we can come up with 5 priorities from the list that we just created together. All right, and Stephanie, we will definitely be adding that to the list. I do see the comments in there, and we'll be going back and adding that, the list from the comments. We'll be adding the comments to the list. All right, so folks, I'll open it up here. In reading the ideas that were shared, what are some priority areas? Where do you see like some themes that kind of came out that were consistent among all of our ideas tonight?
Sanitation, communication.
Sanitation and communication. Great, thank you, Karen.
COVID testing at each site.
COVID testing at each site. Thank you, Kelsey.
And I would also nominate the independent study policy during quarantine.
Great.
I would,
Go ahead, Amber, sorry.
no worries. I would echo communication, and I think social and emotional support, that's been a theme this whole time. I think that kind of links to mental health.
Thank you, Amber.
I would also include in there the student voices about their social events.
All right. Well, I just want to thank you all. I want to
With communication, sorry.
That's okay, go ahead.
With communication, Beatrice would like to add that technology has to do with that communication, ways of communicating, either typed, letters being sent home, technology, any of that would be considered with communication. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'll let Laura finish. Oh, there we go. She's got it. Okay. So as I just want to share what our next steps are going to be, so you're aware of what's kind of happening and what we did here today. I'm going to let Laura finish up the thought there, and then we'll scroll down. Perfect. So for the rest of the month of September, we are going to be meeting with various groups throughout the district. So that's including a lot of student groups, a lot of other parent advisory committees across the district, and as well as staff groups as well. And we're asking these same questions. And then what we're going to do is look across all the groups to kind of figure out where there's some of the overlapping priority areas from all the different groups. And at that point in the month of October, at either the October 12th or October 26th meeting, a plan will be presented to the board for, there'll be a presentation and the board will take action on that. So that'll happen at one of the board meetings in October. So with that, I just want to thank you all for sharing this information this evening. Again, the input that you provided, these are such great ideas and gives us so many ideas for us to work with. So I just want to thank you again for that. And with that, actually, I'm going to transition over here to Kim and Steve for our next agenda item. So thank you all.
Thank you, John. Give me 1 second. We have a special presentation for Tom and Heather for their contributions to our Lcap.
Actually, Kim, could I just do a quick run through? It looks like we have one visitor here tonight.
Absolutely, sure.
Thank you.
Kim, my apologies.
That's okay. You guys are all doing great. It's your first time. You guys you're killing it. So at this point in time is an opportunity for any visitors to make a comment or ask a question on this specific item we just covered, which is ESSER 3, a listening session. So I will open it up to any visitors to pose a question or a comment. Okay, So with that, we have no questions or comments from visitors. I will go ahead and go on. Kim, take it away, committee business.
Thanks so much. So we have a special presentation for Tom and Heather for their contributions to our LCAP. Steve and I will be sharing a few words and then we will move on to the presentation. So Tom and Heather, on behalf of our entire LCAP team, we wish you the biggest congratulations because you two deserve to be honored today. You both do so much for our community. It would take pages to acknowledge all that you guys do. But tonight we're here to say thank you, thank you, thank you for serving as our LCAP PAC chair and assistant chair. You both have gone over and beyond.
And I would love to echo that. Tom, thank you for your support, your wealth of knowledge, your experience, your guidance for everyone. We're becoming friends, so you can say that, I hope. And just thanks very much.
Well,
absolutely.
Thank you. I'm truly honored, and it's an honor to serve the community, to do what I can to help all of our PAC members, and I will continue. Actually, one of the biggest honors is when people reach out to me and ask for me to lend what resources I have so they can be involved. So thank you very much. I'm really touched. Thank you.
You're welcome. And our whole PAC has really appreciated learning from both of you and getting to know both of you. I know that I don't see her here, but she'll know exactly the sentiments we have for her as well, Heather. So thanks again so much. And Steve, if you had anything else you wanted to add to that.
Get your tissues ready, Tom.
So here's our presentation for both of you. Can you zoom out, Laura?
Thank you. Good evening, President Villasquez.
Thank you, Laura. And Steve, Tom, since you're the only one here tonight, if you had any words you wanted to share.
Well, yeah, well, like I think I pretty much said it. Thank you. And it's quite interesting to see those pictures. I mean, I really appreciate it. And I guess I don't mind being stalked on social media. Thank you.
You're welcome. It was a team effort. And here we're going to present you with yes, your certificates. Thank you, Tom.
You'll also get a real one, FYI, not just the PowerPoint one.
Thank you.
Yes, I just need your address, Tom. So send it to me in email or whatever is easier for you.
All right, perfect. We're going to move on to the next item on our agenda. And I'm going to share a little story with everyone. as an LCAP member. I've served for 3 years, and this will be my 4th year. My very first year I was really lost. I had my why. I knew why I wanted to serve on the LCAP. It was my children, our families in the San Juan Unified School District, and marginalized families, and to change the system with systemic disparities among certain groups, and to improve on what also works well within our district. I knew why I wanted to become an LCAP member. I just didn't have the rest. Like, what's next? What's my role exactly as a member? What can't I say and do? I was really frustrated the first year, but I decided to come back because my why was still there. And I had given feedback to the LCAP leadership and asked why we didn't have some form of training for new members, or even an LCAP mentor to help us get through the first year. And the next year, training was implemented. So moving forward to my 2nd year, I was changed because we had a focus group that included more seasonal LCAP members, and I began to learn and understand my role and purpose. I was in the group with Tom Nelson and Damaris and a couple of other members, and that's when I found my voice in the LCAP, because I had more clarity on the purpose and how we were to function. Of course, this was short-lived because of the pandemic, but in my which was in my 3rd year, and now in my 4th year, I've truly stepped out on faith to help direct our LCAP, because I believe in our function, our purpose, our core values, and our team. So our core values are voice, access, and clarity. We will lift the voice of our community. We will reduce the barriers in LCAP. We will be clear about our purpose and role as an advisory committee, because it's we, not me, and that's our LCAP motto. So I want to thank you for your time. And now Steve will present our LCAP recruitment flyer.
Really well said. So the recruitment flyer is something that we are trying to put out there for folks that haven't heard of us or don't know what we're all about. We already went over function and purpose. So function is, capacity on what matters pertaining to the development, monitoring, and revision of the local control and accountability plan. And the purpose has a lot of weight. We're helping the folks that really need the help. It's English language, where we've spoken about these. We haven't mentioned foster youth or homeless youth, and even special needs children fall into this category. We fight for those children and for the best that they can be. So we've put this flyer together to really try to recruit more participants, even becoming a visitor for a little while as we get new members filling the spots. But we really want to make a difference and do the best we can to represent the children and the families that our LCAP represents. So, and then with that, I would like to have Laura move to visitor comments if there are any, but anyone has any questions, feel free to email her. But just our mission should be very clear to help those folks.
Thank you, Steve. And if I may just add a comment here, it's a perfect segue or perfect transition. So thanks, Steve. We still have 2 openings for students. We have been advertising to individual school sites. We've put it in newsletters. We put it on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook. So if you know of any high school students that would be interested in joining the Lcap PAC, just feel free to talk to them and send us their names. We would love participants, high school students, particularly freshman, sophomore, junior, since it's a 2-year commitment, although seniors are very welcome to apply. We would love to have representation from high schools like Encina, Mesa Verde, as well as other schools, but since this is a committee that represents unduplicated students, we would love to make sure we have student representation from some of our schools that may not have, have a voice. So with that, thank you, and then we'll move forward. Do we have, actually, it looks like our visitor has dropped off, so we will skip this section and we will move on to future agenda items. I'll turn it over to John.
Perfect. Thank you, Laura. And so before I turn it over to Kim here in a moment, I just wanted to share some thinking that was done at our co-chair meeting regarding this agenda item. At our co-chair meeting, we reviewed the topics that were suggested and noticed that some might have been outside of the purview of this committee and maybe more suited for either a school site, another district advisory committee, or even the school board. So in the spirit of our core values, we thought we could provide some additional clarity to this agenda item. So before opening it up for recommendations, we thought it would be helpful just to, again, kind of revisit our PAC purpose and function, also to share our PAC meeting schedule and future board agenda items. In doing so, we think this might help focus our recommendations within the scope of our Lcap work. Also, it'll be a way for us to...
Dora, can you take a breath, please?
Oh yeah, of course.
Thank you.
No, it's okay.
Yeah, okay. You can just when you say a sentence or two, just take a little breath, please.
Will do, and I'm
Thank you.
learning out as I go on this, Isis, so I'll get better. So thank you for correcting me.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so in doing so, we think that this might be helpful to focus our recommendations within the scope of our Lcap work. Also, it might be a way for us to share what topics are going to be addressed at future PAC and board meetings. So if you just go back a slide, Laura, I know we've seen this slide. We've kind of gone here a couple times around our function and purpose. And so as we've discussed, our function and purpose are to serve in an advisory capacity on matters pertaining to the development, monitoring, and revision of the Lcap, with a specific focus on improving outcomes and meeting the needs of our English learner, foster youth, homeless, and socioeconomically disadvantaged students. And then here, these are topics that we plan on addressing at future PAC meetings that include, as you can see here, two orientation meetings, reviewing data connected to our Lcap metrics, and reviewing the Lcap itself. So I'll leave this up for a moment. Go ahead, Laura.
Can you slide back to that last one real quick? I was trying to look at that room real quick. Okay. Okay, perfect. That's it. Thank you.
And then if we look at the tentative board agenda items here, these are tentative board agenda items through the month of October. So you can see what topics will be addressed by the board. So like, for example, at the last meeting, a question regarding enrollment came up. So as you can see here, this will be addressed at the September 28th board meeting. So with that, we just ask that you keep this information in the front of your mind as you make recommendations for future agenda items. And I guess I will now turn it over to Kim, who will help us facilitate this section for our agenda. So Kim, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Sean. I would like to open up for the PAC member future agenda item suggestions, but I would like to, give me 1 second. My baby girl just came in. Go back out there.
Can I ask a quick question? Did anybody see Chromebooks up there?
Okay.
Am I tripping? I can't see for, does anybody see Chromebooks?
No.
Okay. I was just asking.
Yeah.
I was missing it.
Okay. So I'd like to give the opportunity to our, because we do have a lot of first year and second year members. Our second year members didn't get a whole lot of experience with our Lcap PAC. So I'd like to give our first and second year members the opportunity to express any suggestions that they think we might have, and then all the rest of our members. So if I could just get our first year members only to give us some suggestions initially. Are there any first year members that would like to see any future agenda items? And you can just unmute and speak freely if you would.
I think it might be more guided if the senior members went first, because I'm still trying to figure out what issues we address and what we don't address. Like, you know, like, as a first year member, I'm like, I don't really know what to suggest because I don't really know what exactly we do, if that makes sense.
That does make sense, April. That does make sense coming from a first year. I just wanted to give opportunity because I realize even in our a lot of our conversation tonight, it's a lot of our past members that has a lot of input. And I want to make sure, because when I was a first year member and second year member, it was very difficult for me to speak up because everyone else was speaking up. I was like, oh, what they have to say is better than what I had to say. So I wanted to give the opportunity to our first year and second year, but what you do have to say is pretty valid as well. So if there are no first year or second year who would like to share.
I appreciate that as a first year member, but I'm not afraid of speaking up either, so.
Okay, got it. But there are some people who are though.
For me, I mean, it's not really suggestion on what you could do better. I think the emails that I've gotten from Tom, I mean, I've had Amber reach out personally. So I think that really helps because it really makes me feel a part of the committee, and it really gives me that platform to answer to ask questions if I need to. So and it looks like we have orientation coming up already on the agenda. So, I mean, I think you guys, you're doing great. I'm just gonna kind of be like April and sit back and figure it out.
Would you say that communication might be something that goes on our future agenda to discuss?
Yeah, for sure. Just communication amongst the committee. You know, I know we'll meet once a month, but you know, I think it's always good because there's so many things happening throughout our community and through the schools. So just communication could be one. More listening sessions.
Okay. And then if any of our past PAC members have any suggestions?
Let's see, I'll go ahead and speak up now.
Thank you, Tom.
Sure. You know, when I think as people get, especially the new members come on board, the Lcap, because it's the district plan for basically everything, it is the master plan of what the district will do for the next year. And it lays down a framework actually for the next 3 years. So it covers a lot. And so some of the things that our committee can take as actions, some of them might be very local to our committee. Some of them might be very broad to the school board. And as an example, I have some motions I'd like to make tonight. And this will also give members a little bit of experience in seeing how the committee actually makes recommendations and makes motions and takes action. So just to kind of start off with, and I'm hoping somebody will second this, I make a motion that when sending the draft Lcap minutes to our Lcap committee, that a link be included to the video recording of the previous Lcap meeting. And the reason for that is, the people that may have been absent or missed the previous meeting, they can watch the video and they can look at the minutes, and that way they can actually be informed so they don't have to abstain when we take action on passing the minutes. So my motion is to, when sending out the draft Lcap minutes to the Lcap committee, include the link to the video recording of that Lcap committee. And hopefully somebody will second that.
Is there a second?
Chelsea seconds.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Okay, then we can take a vote. Everyone in favor, say aye. Just raise your hand on the little.
Okay.
Oh, wait a few more seconds. Okay. And everyone not in favor, take your hand down. and raise your hand now. Does that work for you, Laura? Or would you need it to be more communicated?
I think so. I wasn't able to capture how many yeses we had. Could we do it real quick?
We can do it verbally, yes.
Yeah, those who are in favor, raise your hand. I see Stephanie's got a thumbs up, so let me just do a quick look. We've got everybody. So 1, 2, 3, keep them raised. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I think Stephanie was 11, Faisal 12. Kim, are you in favor? I can't.
Yes.
Okay, so great. So
All right.
unanimous. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Measure passed, motion passed.
Motion passed.
When
Thank
there's
you.
items like that, I think whoever is running the Zoom, they could create a poll and then you can just vote in the poll.
That's a good idea.
What happened to our signs?
You
We
know,
need to get those out. Our color ones. I like those. So if everybody had one, dude, just flash it.
Yeah.
And
you know,
yeah,
if I may interrupt here though.
Yes.
Because it's community business, it's a discussion item. It's not an action item tonight. I don't believe we can take a vote on this.
Well, if we can't take a vote on this this week, then we can put it on the agenda for the next time and take the same vote.
You bet.
Thank you, Lauren. Thank you, Kim.
Can I, John, let me just make a statement. I think with something like this, a simple request, because that we really can just acknowledge that and we'll just do it. You know, it makes sense. So rather than having this to be so formal, let's just say, hey, is this something we could do? I think John would say, great. Yeah, because it was a good suggestion.
Great idea.
And simplify it. When necessary, we can be more formal, but let's make it as simple as possible on some of these things as well.
Right.
I'm sorry, you got to repeat that. What'd you say, John? Because Javante was talking to me. I was trying to hear both. What was your suggestion?
Actually, that was our superintendent who was speaking and was just reiterating that we can possibly just simplify the process. And it was a great suggestion that Tom made and that we can move forward with the suggestion that he made.
Right. Even so that we don't have to wait for the next meeting to do this, we can just include that, the recording when we send out the minutes for the next meeting.
That's perfect.
Okay. Well, I have another motion, and I'm not sure if this might fall into the same category, and that is in the spirit of our Lcap Focus Area 1 of Connected School Communities, that we want to engage the public in public participation, that we post the Zoom link to our meetings when we publicly make the agenda available to the public at least 72 hours in advance. Because right now we've been only posting it 15 minutes before our meeting. So I think by posting the Zoom link information with the agenda 72 hours in advance, we're encouraging the information to engage the public. So I'm hoping that somebody will, second that motion, or if that's something that John says that we can just do, or.
Well, actually, Ken, do you want to jump in on this one?
John, again, I would say it sounds like that these aren't items that you can take action on tonight because they weren't on the agenda. So in items like this, it might be, I have a suggestion, and then working with John, get a little background of why we were doing it the way we are. I know at times we have delayed some of those because when we first started using Zoom, we had some pretty challenging Zoom bombing that occurred that were very inappropriate. And so let us consider that. If it needs to come back at the next meeting for an actual action item, we could build that into the agenda. And then at that point in time is, again, what I would say is we would be able to, rather just have a motion action, yeah, this is what we do. Staff would be able to explain why we do the way that we do, either one way or the other. And then people would have the information to make an informed decision either way.
Oh, okay. All right. Then I guess the third item that I guess maybe will, if it's going to be done at the next meeting, was for our committee to make a recommendation to the school board because they are the school board, when they have their meetings, they're posting the link to the YouTube channel only 15 minutes before. So I don't think Zoom bombing is an issue there. So I'm not sure why they're not posting the YouTube channel link to the school board meetings. So if we could get staff to, inform us on if there is a reason that they're not able to post the YouTube channel link to school board meetings, then get that information, and then maybe our committee can make a recommendation to the school board that they post the YouTube channel for the public to watch more than 15 minutes in advance of the meetings.
Okay, we'll get some information on that. Good suggestion.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Just all good suggestions.
So
Is there anyone else who would like to propose a future agenda item?
I just want
Steve?
some clarity. So are we moving to put Tom's second item on next month's agenda?
Yes, yes, I like to put both of the ones that were not approved this evening on the next agenda.
Right, so Kim and Steve, what we'll do is when we meet as a co-chair group, we'll go through the recommendations that are provided this evening, and we'll get some of the information that's needed based off of the recommendations that are made. And then we'll make a decision collectively then when we have all the information in front of us.
Sounds good, John.
Great, thank you, Kim. Thank you, Steve.
You're welcome. So is there anyone who would like to make a suggestion on our future agenda items?
This is Chelsea. I'm not quite sure how to phrase this question, but I think there needs to be a presentation and conversation about the district's plan for how to deal with chronic absenteeism this year in light of all of the quarantines that are happening. And so what is the plan to help mitigate that increased chronic absenteeism rate? So that would be my suggestion.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Okay. And Laura, you captured all of the different suggestions that were given for this evening. Thank you. All right, perfect. So we'll move on to.
Yeah, at this point, Kim, we open it up to general visitor comments.
I see, yeah.
And then I'll turn it over to you to
adjourn
the meeting.
Okay.
So at this point in time, do we have any general visitor comments? If so, come off mute and ask your questions. It looks like we have one visitor. Okay, and there are no visitor comments. So go ahead, Kim.
All right. Well, I want to thank everyone for joining us this evening. And at this time, our meeting is adjourned at 7:36 p.m. So I know everyone's pretty happy that it's pretty early.